Did everybody look at the minutes? I think we'll have to wait to approve those anyway and see if we get enough people. All right, and let's see. Well, it says here to discuss the draft of the RFP for the Waste in Its Place campaign. And I guess that's you, Karen. Yes. So that is a question. Did anyone look at that ahead of time? Yes, I hope so. Oh, good. So just a little background. Oh, good. Sandra's here. Yay, Sandra made it. A little background. We did, I don't know if Pete has mentioned this, but we kind of piggybacked a little bit on an RFP that we've looked at that through Metro. So there's a little bit of within the RFP, we kind of left out some of the things that we can't edit anyway. That's all just Metro terms and stuff. But so what we sent in the draft form is our start at just kind of filling in the blanks as to what we're looking for. And so I don't know what's easiest. If everyone's looked at it, you may already have some thoughts, suggestions, or whatever. But the idea is, and I think we've talked about this before, but the idea is to contract with some kind of a company that will do a lot of this campaign work when it comes to design and the putting things out, targeted ads, things like that, where they can track the progress of that and how well it's doing. So that's the goal. And then our idea is to have an overarching campaign of something like put waste in its place that's really general, but then hone in on different aspects of waste, like litter or even recycling correctly and things like that. So it would all kind of fit under that theme of putting waste in the right place, but it could have several different messages going out at different times.
I was going to see if it doesn't appear that we have too terribly much on the agenda for today. And I was just kind of going over the request for proposal, and it maybe wouldn't hurt to just take time and can we just go through that whole thing real quick and kind of from start to finish and just maybe highlight some of the different sections, because I'm kind of reading it over here as you're talking, and I'm having questions as I read through it, and I didn't know if we could just kind of somewhat quickly just go through that. And
yeah, that was kind of the goal, to use the meeting to talk it over. I guess I didn't know if you wanted to literally, I mean, we can just, like you said, start at the top. Would you prefer to have it on the screen?
Like I said, it doesn't seem like we have too terribly much else on the agenda.
It would be nice if it could be on the screen, Diane.
Yes.
That would
help. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I appreciate what Adam's saying. There's a lot of lawyer gobbledygook in here.
Yes, and that's not my expertise at all. So thankfully we have some people on the call that have some background in that. So, and like I said, some of this is a little bit of that is left in because we modeled it after another RFP. So, so what we would want to really focus on, I think, is the content. Obviously, if there's any edits, that's fine, but the goal here would be more, are we saying what we want to say? If someone's reading this, are they getting the right message as to what we're looking for? And do you all agree? Because we just kind of had, usually we have to start somewhere and then and get everything looked at by you guys on the committee and then the board. So
If you all don't mind, I could kind of go through here and like summarize what I think of each section, talk about it a little bit, or
Sure.
help facilitate the process here. So,
Oh, yeah.
so to me, it looks like just the section 1 portion more or less just explains the fairness of the bid process for any kind of metro project. So to me, it's pretty just kind of a overview of how that bid process works. So pretty cut and dry there. There's not much we're going to change or have the ability to do anything with that. So I think we can move on to section 2. And then section 2, it looks to me like is outlining a lot of kind of what Karen said, or at least in this first part, is what type of educational goals you are trying to achieve with this.
yeah, so since this section is the background, it's kind of the idea is to give whoever the proposer an idea of what we're already doing. It was kind of hard because I was, we had some things down that like Pete kind of started. I tried to edit, and then I kind of felt like, well, should we add more? I don't know.
Actually, yes, but before you get to section 2,
Okay.
and maybe even before introduction, which is section 1, it would be nice to have no more than 5 sentences that explained what the purpose of all this was. Because I think part of the reason for confusion is you can read it all and we know what you're doing. But if somebody picks it up and looks at it, I'm not sure that they know what you want them to do. Is that sort of what you were thinking, Adam?
I think she gets to that later on in
Way on.
the document, or I think some of
I
these other
agree.
sections she gets into more of like scope of work,
I agree.
what they're asking for this company to do.
But before you get there, you've gone through all of this other stuff, which is important. But I still think it would help to have a beginning that says, this is why we've got this paper in front of you.
Maybe have your scope of work prior to your section 2, which lists your background.
Would work with an introductory sentence that
Yeah,
says why you're putting it there. That would work.
because honestly, until you just explained it to me, Karen, I didn't realize that section 2 is highlighting what you already have in place. Because when I first read that, 2 full-time educators and 1 full-time solid waste officer, I initially thought, are they looking to add that in addition? And that's why I was like,
Great.
well, that wasn't really what I was
Yeah. And to be
discussed.
honest, Pete was in the same boat as you, and I had to edit it.
Okay.
Because I was like, wait, you're throwing in what we want, but that's too early. This is background. So
And I
totally
But in the
understand.
background, even the first sentence in the background, you say, our mission is to develop. In other words, it's a future statement. And it doesn't say this is the past. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think really just what Sandra's saying is that the section 2 with the background probably needs to follow the scope of work instead of being in front of the scope of work, because like I and everyone, it's a little confusing as to, is this the background or is this what you're looking to have done? And knowing now that you're telling me, hey, this is what we already have in place, I think that could go on the other end of the scope of work.
Okay.
But no, and that totally makes sense, and I think it does look good here what you have for the background, because I think it does detail out very I mean, very good as to what you already have going on, what they have to build on top of. So is everyone good about, just for right now, section 2, assuming that may go after the scope of work, but is there anything that maybe needed to be added on there? I think it looks really, really good in my opinion.
I think that when you move the scope of work forward, it could be purpose of RFP and scope of work.
Yeah, that might
The
make it a little
background section
clearer.
could say in nice words, because you've laid it out really nicely, but it could say, this is what we're already doing, and you're going to have to coordinate with it. Because I really think that's what you are saying.
Mhm. I think I just noticed the second paragraph of that background section says the following objectives and components of it are listed to give. So something like that could be at the very beginning instead. Like those two
Agreed.
paragraphs could switch maybe.
Which they could.
That's understandable.
So otherwise, everybody good on section 2 for now?
And
We could scroll down to section 3, which is the scope of work, and this sounds like and this seems to detail out, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of reading it as I'm talking, but this is more or less what you're looking to have done.
Yes. So I guess if anyone had anything else in mind or believes we should add to that list or edit it out, that's fine.
In
You know,
fact, the opposite. I think you could even put a final caveat into some of these and say that as the campaign develops, there may be other objectives or other elements that are added, because that's the way life is and it tends to happen that way. I can appreciate the fact that writing this has to have been awful.
Karen did a good job.
You did.
Just so I'm understanding, in the key elements section, there it seems like you are detailing as to how you anticipate them promoting your message through different avenues. As part of your bid, will they be paying for this? Like, say they want to put a radio ad or print media, is that something that they are going to pay for as part of your request for bid? Or is that something that they would, I guess, request funds to do?
no, we would expect that it would be part of the contract. So they pay for ads or for print, whatever, and then it all would fit into the budget that we allowed.
How could they anticipate in advance what that might cost?
Well, I don't really I have super I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I know with a lot of digital media you put in ads you have your money and then it gets you, especially for social media kind of ads, you say I want to spend $500 on this ad campaign and it
Oh, I was thinking more like they wouldn't have an idea until they've worked with you for a while of how many ads needed to be generated, what markets they needed to go into, how big they needed to be. I'm thinking that it would be very difficult unless they've already got access to this or already done this type of work for waste management districts. I'm thinking that they wouldn't necessarily be able to come up with a figure for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's a company that, maybe they haven't done solid waste, but they might have experience with um, another like the air pollution control district has their company, or if they have experience with nonprofits, or I'm hoping they'll have some kind of background that would give them some expertise on what is going to work and what's not. But
I would think too that they would have to explain to you how they plan to promote your message. So, and in explaining that to you, they would also have to back that up with potential viewership, potential this or that. Because you could have one company say, okay, I'm gonna run a commercial at the Super Bowl. You're going to get 1 30-second ad. It's going to eat up the entire amount, but you got that many
For the
views.
next 20 years.
Yeah, but you got that many views. But is that really what you want? Or do you want some smaller avenue? So I think all this is good in outlining different forms of media to promote the message, but as part of their bid process, I think they also need to explain to you how they plan to use that money, and you all need to determine, I like this guy's plan versus the Super Bowl plan. Like this plan fits what we're going to do a whole lot better than what this company's planning on doing, because there's a bazillion ways to cost way more money than others, and some produce better results than others. So I think that you should expect for the company, as part of their bid or as part of their proposal, to detail out how they are planning to get this message across, and in what form of media they're planning on using, so that you all can determine how well you think that will translate to what you've already been doing, because you all probably have as much experience as anyone as to what you think works and what don't. But again, that's kind of what you're hiring them for too. They should have experience in this, and what works and what doesn't also. But I think that's going to be a key component to selecting the company, is how they plan on going about making all this stuff happen.
Adam, our company has done that, and those that have experience with that can give you an actual budget right in that proposal of how much that would be. And Karen was going right down that path. You can spend 500 a month, or 1,000 a month, or 2,000 a month. And for that, they can tell you exactly how many impressions and what you would get for that. So these media companies are very familiar with that today. They do it all the time. And it's not industry specific. It can be, my brother has a printing and a sign and a manufacturing company, and they do it for him. And it is the same type of profile as it was for a solid waste recycling company. So the budgets
So is
are
the,
similar to the exposure you want to generate with, with the marketing campaign.
so
Does
are
that
you
make
saying the
sense?
budget amount? Yes, it does. Are you saying the budget amount comes first?
Well, inside the proposal, um, they can make some assumptions. They're good at this. That's what they do for a living. And they'll make some assumptions based on who you want to impact, who do you want to target, right? With this program, Karen could sit down and say, these are the people that I think we should target. This is the geographical area, or this is the number of people. And then they can fairly easily put together, the digital marketing campaign. That's what I heard you refer to, right, Karen? The digital
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah, they can identify that and give you, pretty good guidance on what that would be, Sandra. So we have done that on a number of occasions, and it was interesting to me because, I'm an older school guy, and our younger people here, that looked at it at the company, they would say, yep, that's where we want to go, or no, that's not where we want to go. And so it didn't take us very long to come to a conclusion about, budgets and impact. And then they measure that for you. They'll tell you exactly what's going on with the money you're spending.
But then the scope of work would include target markets. So you'd give them an idea of what it was.
They'll want to know that. Yes.
Okay.
They did with us. They asked us, who do you want to impact? Is that, what geographical area? They can actually, we get these reports, I guess, Karen, they're called Google reports, and it will show exactly how many people came in, who was contacted, what zip codes, what areas, what cities, what states. In our case, it was countries. We were actually getting some information back from countries that were following our programs. So that wasn't something we targeted, but they would go online and find that, and then they would contact us back with the information that the marketing company was disseminating. So,
Thank you.
and I'm not an expert at that. I'm just making an observation based on the success of our program and the budgets that we had set aside. And they're very cognizant about, they're going to ask you, how much money do you want to spend? They're going to ask you that because they know inside that what you can get for that. And they'll tell you, yes, you're on track. It's kind of like buying how much do you want to spend for an automobile? Do you want an economy size, a standard size, or a luxury size? And they'll ask questions like that if they're good at what they do. If they don't ask that, it's probably not the right candidate. So sorry to interrupt that, but
No, that was very helpful. Thank
we've
you.
had experience with that, and I was a little dubious of that, I have to tell you, but it worked out well, Adam, for us.
I agree. Yeah, I agree that they should, that's what they do for a living. They should be able to provide numbers that, hey, this typically reaches this number of people, but all that I think is good for decision making. I did see in here too that you've got a special term and condition saying no advertising or promotional activities are to be conducted without written approval of the district. So therefore, you do have final say over how they choose to spend the money. So again, if they wanted to do a Super Bowl ad and you said, wait a minute, that's not what we want to do. You have in your contract there basically that you all have final say so over what media outlets and how they release the media. So again, I think that would help determine what they're going to do or what means they're going to use.
Yes. And we did put a amount in here, if you guys noticed.
Yeah, I see that.
So, and that was gauged a little bit by what we had seen from the air pollution control district that they had spent. So it's kind of where we got our ballpark because it's hard to know. I did have experience with an ad campaign when we did the Food Service Packaging Institute partnership, where we added takeout containers to recycling and trying to get people to realize that they can recycle their takeout. And so all I really got were the reports. It was all rolled into this campaign. Someone else paid for it. So I didn't have to do anything except look at what benefits we got from it and the impressions and all. That's when I learned a lot of those terms like impressions to understand how that works. So this is very new. I think, Adam, I felt like you had mentioned something else, like in the required submittals section. I think you had started to say, or maybe one of you had said something like we would want to make sure what they're going to tell us, so as long as we're writing in here what we want from them, that's part of the reason we want you all to look at it too. If there's anything missing, we would want to know.
Yeah, I didn't read down far enough, but you pretty much summarized what I was saying in that required submittals, or you're pretty much saying that you want them to provide their vision, approach, and all that for accomplishing the goals. So I do think that's what I was saying, or exactly what you should be looking for. Do you have a time frame in mind as to how long this company would work with you all, or is there a length of time that maybe I'm not seeing it in there and it's in here somewhere, but just
Well, it mentions in the scope that may renew over several years. And I think, again, just kind of looking at experience from the other agency, um, they spent $100,000 for a year. Not that they were doing a targeted campaign every day of the entire year, but you know, the campaigns would intermittently happen within an entire year. So I think that our budget would cover a year, and then with the goal of continually, I mean, as long as we like what they do, keep going annually.
That was sort of my impression from reading that section, that that's what you were saying. Anything else, Adam?
No. That's, I think, even getting down to required submittals, that kind of covers all of section 3. Yeah, I think I'm good on that section for now, or I think it's very well said. I think, like we were saying earlier, that may want to go above section 2, just kind of flip flop those two sections, but
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And then we'll look at section 4 here. Looks like just the evaluation process of the bids you receive. Just real quick, who or how is the RFP evaluation committee composed?
Good question. Um, what did we even?
I mean, to me, basically, though, that's as simple as, I don't know what your all's plans are, but I would think maybe once you got all of these bids, is that something you're going to discuss with the subcommittee, with the advisory committee, or is that something that you all as a staff would make a decision on once you receive all your bids? Then who and how do you all determine which one you want to go with?
Yeah, I think that's you know, worth discussing ahead of time. I don't know if it's required to put in here who it's going to be, but I would imagine that we as staff would look at everything, but I guess like I said, I don't have experience, so I don't know if it would seem normal to have we could certainly bring it back to this subcommittee, or you know, maybe there's a few people that are specifically interested in helping with that. You know, and eventually the board as well.
That's what I was going to say. I think that ultimately, since you're talking about an expenditure of over $100,000, the board would have to make the final determination, but how you put together the few steps to get there, I think is up to you. And I think that based on the fact that there's a variety of different experiences on the subcommittees and on the advisory committee, you might pick one or two people to, after you've looked at everything, just so that when it's articulated as it goes forward, you can say you've involved them, but I don't think you're legally required in any way, shape, or form to involve anybody other than getting it to the board for the final decision.
Yeah. And one board member, Carl Braisley, has a lot of experience. We've actually talked with him before about campaigns and, you know, it's part of what he does. So I would imagine he would be interested in seeing where this goes and seeing the proposals. But we certainly would have to present to the board. If there's one that we really like as staff, no matter what, we'll be presenting that, you know, so they can make that final say. And we'll be presenting this RFP to them as well before it goes out. So, you know, so far I don't feel like, as far as you guys reading through it, nothing's really jumped out that, aside from maybe a little organization and clarity, it doesn't seem that we're
No,
too far off.
I really meant it. I think you've done a very good job. And I think that the only issue is whenever you're going to send out a multi-page document, you want to hit people with your important parts in the first page, because if it's later on, they're not going to get it. And so in essence, I think that's what we've said. Not that the words are bad, but they could come sooner.
Yeah. Almost like an abstract of a research paper.
Or a legal brief. No judge is going to read and get to page 20 and then find the meat of the matter.
Other than that, I think it's extremely well written, and I think it'll definitely serve the purpose to, like I said, get you some bids out there. And I think it'll be interesting to see what you get or how many and what bids and what type of things come in from there. I think that'll be really interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good on that for now, or I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or you all are waiting for me, but I really appreciate going through that, or I definitely think that was worthwhile or have a better understanding of it by doing that.
Yep. So we've got all our notes, and we can edit a little bit, rearrange it a little bit, and send it back out for everyone to see.
Very good.
I guess I didn't see Kim get on here for
Yeah, I'm sorry. She is still tied up with her other call. No, she didn't expect it to go this long, but sorry.
no problem. I was just trying to look at the
Yeah,
attendance.
I'll give her a debrief of kind of the conversation, but I obviously can't help with quorum count. Sorry.
And that's, I mean, I know it's not quite 3 o'clock, but that is all we had on the agenda because we weren't really sure how long it would take to.
Thanks to Adam, it was relatively quick. Did we pass the minutes?
No.
I don't
No.
think we have enough. I don't think we have a quorum for that.
We had one when I entered, but I don't know if we've got one now.
With Marie, Sandra, and Adam, I think that's everybody.
That is. Which is not a quorum. So you'll just have to take it as those are our recommendations.
Yes. Yes, that's what we'll do.
Is there anyone else who'd like to add anything today? And seeing none and not having enough people to vote on an adjournment, we're adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
all.